There's a sentiment that seems to be becoming increasingly popular, at least on the internet lately. That sentiment is this: I did all the right things. I did everything they told me to do. I did everything I was supposed to do. But still. And the people who are expressing this are typically talking about how they got a college degree so that they could quote unquote get a good job and quote unquote be financially comfortable, whatever that means. So a lot of people my age and younger are realizing that you can work really hard, be a good student, make good grades, get a good degree from a good school, and still feel like you're struggling. And people are angry because no matter how hard you work putting your energy and hours into the system, there are still things that are out of your control. Things like inflation, the cost of food, the cost of housing, of school, of insurance, utilities. And quite often lately, inflation has been outpacing wages, or at least it sure seems to be. Sure feels like it. So it doesn't matter if you make more, if the things you need cost more. And you will be at the mercy of whatever system, whatever infrastructure that you are putting your time and energy into. So people are saying, I did all the things, I checked all the boxes, I jumped through all the hoops, but I still blank. I still can't blank. I still have blank. I still don't have blank. I still can't afford blank. And I certainly could talk more about that, but that's not really what this episode is all about. It's just a trend I've noticed that I happen to agree with, by the way, that got me thinking. And I was walking in the woods, as I like to do, and I was thinking about the book of Genesis, in which Yahweh creates a perfect ecosystem. Everything that man needs is provided. There's no need for money or greed or envy or violence. There are a couple of rules, but Yahweh communicates them very clearly. And still, his creation fails to recognize perfection because they've never experienced anything less, and they step outside the boundaries that have been set. Yahweh did everything he could have possibly done, made everything perfect, communicated the rules, but still. And how frustrating is it when we as parents know how good our children have it, yet they are not capable of the same knowledge. They don't know how good they have it because we have protected them from the knowledge of how cruel and unjust this world can be. And I'm realizing now that our concept of God, and the gospel for that matter, really doesn't make sense apart from the concept of fatherhood. So in the biblical context, if you boil it down, the story of humanity is just the story of a dad. A dad who gives his kids really cool stuff. The kids don't appreciate it, and kind of don't appreciate him for that matter, and mess it up. They break the new toy. So the dad disciplines them, takes their stuff away, and then later decides to give them something even better so that they can all be reconciled back to each other. I mean, if you believe the Bible, that's kind of the whole thing in a nutshell. So the dad decides to give the kids something even better so that they can all be reconciled back to each other. Well, what's better than living in a beautiful, peaceful, utopian garden where God himself comes to spend time with you? What about being a carrier of that same peace, with God himself being ever present? Like the old Chris Farley routine. Here's you, here's Matt. There's you, there's Matt. Here's you, here's God. There's you, there's God. Because in Genesis, man is in the garden. But in the book of Acts, in the New Testament, the garden is in the man. Or you could say it this way: man is the garden. A perfect man was given to be the progenitor of a race of perfect men. So we went from living in a garden to having a garden living in us. And that perfect man said things like this: I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. I know my sheep, and am known by my own. As the Father knows me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they will hear my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd. That's Yeshua speaking of himself and his Father in John 10. And then in Matthew 18, he gives us this parable. If a man has 100 sheep, and one of them goes astray, does he not leave the 99 and go to the mountains to seek the one that is straying? And if he should find it, assuredly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. In the parable, the man leaves the many to reclaim the one, because he sees the value in the one. This is one side of the gospel. The other side of the gospel is that the Father sees the many, that's us, and decides that it's worth it to sacrifice the one for the many, knowing that the one will be preserved even in death. It's the Father, the Dad from Genesis, saying, "We will do whatever it takes. The hard things, the difficult things, the uncomfortable things, to demonstrate to these sheep, these kids, that they are not orphans." As Yeshua himself said, "I promise I will never leave you helpless or abandon you as orphans. I will come back to you." So you may be in one of these situations. You may be feeling like the Father. You may be going through your list. Tell me if this sounds familiar. But I didn't eat this. I didn't drink this. I didn't smoke this or take this. I respect and honor my temple, but still, I gave when I should have given and saved when I should have saved. I was generous. I was responsible. I was prudent. I wasn't wasteful, but still. I applied myself to the pursuit of knowledge. I sacrificed in order to achieve. I showed up early and left late. I jumped through all the hoops. I checked all the boxes, but still. I prayed. I fasted. I believed, but still. And you can do all the right things and still have what you feel like are all the wrong outcomes. And the question is, how will you respond? The question's not how can you avoid it. The question is, how will you respond? Will it draw you closer or cause you to withdraw? Will you open up to hear him whisper to you who you are, not what you've done right, not what you've done wrong, but who you are? Will you let the shame and disappointment consume you? Or will you apply yourself to reconciliation? Do you really believe that every detail of your life is being woven together? Do you believe the past and future are being woven together? Do you believe your life could be coming into strategic alignment with people you don't even know yet? Do you believe that you and Abba are interwoven, intertwined, that you cannot be removed from him and he cannot be removed from you? And are you willing to do the hard things, the uncomfortable things, the embarrassing things? Are you willing to swallow your pride? Are you willing to put what you've always valued on the table? Are you willing to face the things you've always been afraid of? Are you willing to draw a line in the sand and say, "This will go no further. This ends with me"? To assure the generation coming after you, "I will not leave you as orphans." And sometimes the more we try, the worse it gets. And the more we fix it, the worse it breaks. So you may be saying, "I tried. I did everything right. I did my best, and it wasn't good enough." And maybe he would agree with you. Because maybe it's not about your best, my best. Maybe God says, how about we try our best? What if God is saying, what if we try my best? You and him and you. You trusting him and him trusting you. So maybe your best is not good enough. But maybe it's not supposed to be. Maybe we should redefine doing our best as just proximity. Because I don't recall Christ, or the Bible in general, instructing us to do our best and try to be successful and be responsible and practical and hope for the best. But I can think of more than a handful of passages that instruct us to trust God. More than a handful of passages that encourage, no, demand that we not be afraid. And maybe we're not seeing the results we want because we didn't inherit the infrastructure required to really do that. Because all of the messaging around us is constantly reminding us of all the things to be afraid of. But He, in His goodness, has given us an internal dialogue, internal messaging that bypasses and surpasses all the noise. And there's never been as much noise as there is now. And it seems to be getting noisier every day. And Yahweh, in His goodness, allows voices to be raised up. Voices who now cry out in the wilderness. Voices like me. And voices, yes, like you. I'm Ryan Coleman, the real Ryan Coleman on Instagram, not Ryan Coleman on X. This is the last broadcast of the year for 2024. It has been a wild ride. A lot of amazing moments, a lot of growth and revealing, a lot of surprises, good and bad, a lot of tears. I think I've cried more this year than all of my previous years combined, including when I was a baby. I don't know. No way to measure that. I hope this year has either been good for you or you trust that it can be seen as good with your hindsight glasses. You know, those special glasses that let you connect the dots from the past and make them into something good in the present? I really want you to click the link in the show notes so you can start reading my new ebook, Problems to Proverbs, Ancient Wisdom for the Modern World, Volume 2. If you get value from this podcast, you will absolutely get value from the book. And if you order by the end of the year, you can save $10. And then you can take that extra $10 and bless someone who needs a blessing. But as always, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.